Right. So, good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and welcome back to a welcome back to another semester um, at the department. I hope you all had a nice break. I'd like to first of all also welcome our two exchange students, um, Jingo and Uday. We think I remember you from the from last year's global project-based learning, if I'm not mistaken. Well, uh, welcome you two, and I hope you have a fruitful exchange semester this year with us. Um, Before we go on, if you haven't done so already, please scan the QR code or punch in 864442 to mark your attendance this afternoon. Otherwise, I'll double. Otherwise, I'll double check. I know some of the. I know for the exchange students. I know that you have. You may be facing a little bit of difficulties in accessing the My ITS platform. Um, don't worry, I've noted your attendance, and if your name pops up in the system, I can mark them manually. Another thing, some of you, if you're for some of you that access this session through My ITS Classroom, you may find or you may have found a couple of activities in the classroom: summary of the determinant of urban morphology and the determinants, and then a four fun quizzes. Um, the two activities, summary and the four fun quizzes, you can ignore for now. They're just they're there because this class was imported from the previous year's class. So I'll be replacing those activities. No need to worry about them right now. Uh, okay, so this is an introductory session. Welcome everyone to Urban Design Theory and Urban Morphology. Although I think the real name of this course is Urban Design Theory and Morphology, and is it? Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, and this class this class will be managed and taught by Bu Ruli and myself. Uh, you might be wondering what this QR code is doing on the slide. Um, if you scan that, it'll take you to my LinkedIn profile page, and you can choose to follow me there if you like. I usually post I usually post informational content, and I also like to share our students' works to my network as well. So if you're into that, you're more than welcome to scan and follow. If you don't have a LinkedIn account already, it's fine. Um, right. Some housekeeping rules, and these rules may be amended as needed. We will have live synchronous sessions or real time sessions such as these. And during the real time sessions, please do mute your mic upon joining unless instructed otherwise. And if possible, it would be nice if you can turn on your camera unless your network bandwidth does not allow it or for whatever other technical difficulties may be. But it would be nice. It would be nice for us to be able to see each other's faces, dress appropriately, of course. This is class. This is actual class that we're in. And then if you have a question or if you'd like to interact with the class, please use the virtual raise hand feature. And throughout the 16 weeks that we will be together, other interactive means will be used. Uh, Perhaps some of you may already you're already familiar with the tools that I like to use for interactive sessions, such as Poll Everywhere and or um, etc. And then outside of class, during the independent learning sessions, you may access course materials as instructed, or you may also search for additional or supplemental references. If you do find something interesting that you'd like to share with the class, you may do so during our online session like this, or you can consult with me or Guruli independently. You can contact us by email or through my ITS forum at the for the Q&A for any questions that you may have. I used to have I used to set up an online question and answers platform independent from my ITS classroom. Unfortunately, as I wanted to set up the platform for this class, the website I found out that the website had been shut down. So too bad. Um, we'll find other ways we'll find other ways there. So for this week, since it's an introductory course, it's an introductory session, I'll tell you a little bit about what we'll be learning and some of the evaluation or assessment activities. And then I'll give you a little sneak peek into urban design theory and urban morphology, although it would be more on the urban morphology side. So this is 16 weeks, which is basically which will basically be divided. Sorry, into two major sessions: urban morphology for the first 8 weeks with me, and then urban design theory with Buruli for the second half of the semester. So we will be primarily discussing urban structure and form and we'll be pondering what are the drivers of urban morphology? Why is it? What makes it that way, so to say? And then afterwards, Ruli will continue by discussing with you guys urban design theory, urban design components, urban design methods and processes, design criteria, and urban design products, of course. Urban design products can be urban design products are, there are various urban design products. There are the building regulations, the building regulations, and the environmental design regulations, for example, or in in Indonesia, it is known as RTBL, Rencana Tata Bangunan dan Lingkungan, the building and environmental design regulations. That's just one, and then there are other products, of course. She will get into that. For group work and assessment, I think there are about 18 or 19 of us. So I'd say should be I'd say we should have several groups of three people. Maybe one group will consist of 4. I think, because 19. Yeah. Groups of 3, or hang on, or maybe groups of 4, whichever works better. Please do submit the list of group members by the end of the day, if just to make the class administration a bit more to make it more easier. And this group will you'll establish groups for group assignments. So there are basically two group assignments, one group assignment for urban morphology, and then another group assignment for urban design theory. Um, just to give you a quick recap of what the group assignment, what the urban morphology group assignment will be. Um, I'm still drafting the terms of reference. Because I found an activity that I think would complement the group assignment quite well, um, and I hope that you will find it interesting. So it is basically having a look at a city, so city A or city B, depending on what the group agrees upon, and then having a look at its morphology and trying to figure out, and you'll research what makes it look like that, basically, and then you will present your group's findings um, after the mid-semester assessment. Now, the group presentation can either be a live presentation or a pre-recorded presentation. We'll see which one works better as the semester goes. And then you will have mid-semester and end-of-semester assessments. Um, Mid-semester assessments, which I will administer. It will be an online quiz through my ITS classroom. But if any of you seem to have difficulties in accessing my ITS classroom, then we can agree upon other forms of online quiz. Which will cover the mid-semester assessments. Will cover course materials or course contents from weeks 1 through to 7, and then alternatively end of semester assessments weeks 8 until 16. All right. So before we go on, I think there are a few of you that were late to join. Please scan the QR code to mark your attendance or punch in 86442 in the attendance list or in the attendance page. So, what is urban morphology? Would anybody care to try and answer what urban morphology is? You don't have to raise your hand. You can just unmute and say what you think. Anyone? Okay. There are some. These are some terms associated with urban morphology. Just off the top of my head, um, city form or urban morphology is city form. It is the shape of the city, and it is closely related to another term known as the urban fabric. So urban morphology basically takes a look at how the city is shaped. Of course, we will be looking at a city from above. So we'll be dealing mostly with images such as this. We're not going to go to the solid and linkage stuff just yet, because that's the urban that will be in the urban design portion. But urban morphology takes a look at the city and its shape and the factors that affect it, and why, and trying to find out why it is shaped that way. Um, Again, I think, in my opinion, everything looks so much better. Everything looks so much grandeur from above. So if a city happens to be symmetrical, radial, concentric, we'll try to find out why the city is like that. And so, in short, urban morphology attempts to make sense of the world around us. We try to understand the spatial structure and the character of a metropolitan area, a city, town, or even a village by examining the patterns of its components, patterns of its parts, components, parts, whichever way you like to call it, and the ownership and control and occupation. Um, so urban morphology itself uh, is linked to various aspects of our discipline, spatial planning, namely, of course, spatial planning, and then conservation. It is closely linked. Urban morphology is closely linked to, and urban morphology is also linked to tourism planning, especially heritage tourism. It is a determinant. The urban morphology or the shape of our city is a very strong, a very, and it does have implications towards public health too. Um, so if we look closely, we'll look closely at each aspect. So urban morphology and planning, or spatial planning. Funnily enough, I think urban morphology, or the urban morphology discipline, um, actually contributes to the critique of planning in that planning is um, planning or in planning, there's generally an absence of consideration of morphological principles. Um, you see, the most common form of spatial planning is land use planning, and unfortunately, land use planning fails to deal with or to communicate to um, many aspects of relevance in the design of successful and interesting cities. Um, I think during the introduction to urban planning class, you may have been taught that planning is all about the future. Um, However, if planning is all about the future, and you are planning or anticipating future activities, why base that future on a dimension that changes most frequently? Um, we plan activities, land use based on activities, residential, commercial, industrial, mixed use, maybe mixed use, what certainly not mixed use buildings, but mixed use activities. But human activities change a lot. Unfortunately, physical form lasts a very long time, oftentimes much longer than the activities that take place on it. So not only should we so not only should we consider the activities that takes place and will take place in the future, but urban morphology then also considers the physical surroundings that that caters to those activities. There's also another saying that we shape the built environment, but in turn, the built environment shapes us too. And in conservation, Uh, I guess that the shape of a city or the townscape is a visual repository of any town's history. And if we only look at and most of the times, and oftentimes, this visual repository this is a very it's a very physical aspect, and oftentimes you can't see that visual repository aspect through the activities and the activities only. So in conserving in conserving the urban morphology, in conserving the urban shape, then we are also retaining the city's history, and ultimately we are also preserving the city's identity. And that has something to do with tourism too, um, because especially heritage tourism. And here I write legibility for legibility is what's another word for legibility? Clarity, readability. So urban legibility and heritage tourism. Um, so the built environment is indeed a fundamental component of the tourism resource of a locality, um, especially in heritage tourism. Of course, if you see old buildings or old monuments, not only because of their old, but because of their historic significance, um, perhaps, or a place or location of very of great historic significance, then that is definitely a tourism resource. And again, it is a very physical thing. It is a very tangible thing. Oftentimes, it's very tangible. It's hard for us to uh, it's hard for us to imagine any form of heritage that is intangible, unless it's done at a massive scale. For example, if there are certain religious festivals, um, or certain community rituals that usually takes place regularly, that is intangible, but that is also quite visible. Um, However, in the context of urban morphology, then we look at the built environment as a tangible tourism resource, and also, as I mentioned before, as a part of the locality's identity. So that was tourism, and now sustainability. So urban morphology is very closely tied to the tied to urban sustainability, um, simply because the physical nature of the urban environment has indeed a profound impact upon present and future energy demands. Um, let's say, for example, if we compare a sprawling city and a more compact city, um, perhaps in a sprawling city where where every activity is has a certain distance or is spread wide apart from each other, then you would normally have to commute from one place to another, and that also impacts or affects the way and the amount of energy that we consume, either by driving or by taking public transit, etc. Whereas in a more compact development, where multiple functions, multiple activities of the city are located within walking distance or within very close proximity from one another, then we can just walk, or we can get on a push bike, and simply that would basically that would basically consume a lot less energy than compared to, say, driving or even taking public transit, bus, train, and so on. So how the city is built, how the city is built, how the city is configured, um, affects the way we move in and around the city. Thus, of course, it does have a profound impact on not only on present and future energy demands, but also present and future emissions, for example. Finally, urban morphology and public health. So Bach argued that the physical form of cities is very important, or very is a determining factor in either inhibiting or promoting physical activity or lack thereof. Um, so, as I mentioned just earlier about compact urban forms, where everything is within close proximity from one activity to another, where we can just walk around and stuff. Um, that also, other than impacting energy and emissions, that would also impact us, impact the public health. And if you tie that in with urban crime, some spaces are configured in a way that allows the community to conduct a sort of a degree of surveillance, and keep their eyes on the street, and thus looking out for one another, so to say. Um, in relations to urban crime, there is this, some of you may have heard of crime prevention through environmental design, or CPTED, CPTED, as it is popularly known. CPTED places a very, very strong emphasis on the form of public space, or urban form, so to say. And the idea of CPTED is that the way the urban sphere is configured also lends to the opportunities and or the possibilities of crime taking place. For example, I think some CPTED papers, some CPTED articles have also argued that that environmental design can also help prevent major crimes such as terrorism. So not only petty theft, but also terrorism. But that remains to be seen. Hopefully, we can also explore that in the weeks to come. Right. So that is basically what urban morphology is about. It is about making sense of the world around us, whether it be in relation to or in the context of spatial planning, or whether it be for conservation purposes, for tourism purposes, sustainability, and public health. But it is basically getting to know the environment around us, the built environment especially. Um, there are three major schools of thought in that underlies urban morphology and its as a discipline, as an academic discipline. The Italian, the British, and the French. The Italian school of thought argues that a city is a result of procedural typology. So the Italian school of thought places an emphasis on political and economical forces that shape the built landscape, whether it be so political or market forces that shape the built landscape. Um, I guess if you if you look through the history books, you can see how the ancient Roman Empire configured their cities in such a way, gridiron, um, to so that they can easily mobilize their troops. They figured that the gridiron configuration is the most optimal configuration for political and economic growth. The British school of thought places an emphasis on the town plan or planning the town itself, and the town plan itself can be broken down into smaller components such as the transport networks and the activities and so on, and then they also place an emphasis on the patterns of building form and the patterns of land use. So it's not merely because of political or economic forces, but the British school of thought also takes into consideration, I suppose, the geography of the location. And then the French school of thought, they look at the built landscape or the city as a dialogue between uh, as a dialogue between social activities and the physical environment, which acts as a container of these activities. So they their philosophy is that the built space is for sustaining social practices, that the built landscape and the social world is a dialectical world. Um, I guess that also reflects on what I said earlier about how we shape the built environment. We design, we plan our cities, we plan our city corridors, we plan our city blocks to accommodate our needs, to empower us, and so on. But the resulting configuration, perhaps as our needs and requirements and our activities evolve, then the built environment itself may no longer be able to support or to empower us to fulfill what we need to fulfill or to support us in what we need to accomplish. So that is an overview of what we will be looking at over the next. Well, this is week 1, so over the next 6 weeks. So far, does anybody have any questions regarding the course contents and perhaps course management and or assessments? If you do have any questions, you may unmute and ask your question. Okay. Otherwise, I would consider that I've made everything pretty clear. Um, so before, so as I mentioned, this is the first week. This is only a preview of what is to come. So we have ourselves a little bit of task at hand. So for you guys, please establish grouping for the group assignments and group works. and then submit those, and then submit the list, full names and registration numbers to me. I look forward to receiving it by the end of the day. And as for me, my homework is to provide a more detailed terms of reference for your urban morphology group assignment. Hopefully I don't have to wait. Hopefully you guys don't have to wait up until next week to receive your terms of reference. Um, yeah. So that is our task for today. Um, Again, if you haven't done so already, please mark your attendance. Otherwise, it was great. It's great to see you guys again. Um, Hope you had a nice break. I hope this semester is better than the last semester, and I hope we all have a fruitful interaction and experience in the urban design theory and urban morphology class. Thank you all for attending today's session. Um, hope you. I wish you all a nice afternoon. Yes, we have two hands up. Sorry, I didn't see that. Who wants to go first? Oh, Hannah can go first. The other person just put their hand down.
Yes, thank you so much, sir, for the chance. I would like to ask you before we finish the class, would you like the coordinator for this class to be the same, or would you like to have a change in the coordinator? Coordinator, sir.
You know what? Coordinator wise, it's up to you. I don't mind if I don't mind if there's a change in coordinator, or if you decide, nah, you know what? Let's just keep it the same. It's up to you. It's up to you guys. Whichever way you are more comfortable with. Um, if you have to establish a, I don't know if you have to, I don't think you need to establish a particular group in say, for example, I don't think you need to establish a WhatsApp group, for example, to coordinate things with me. You can just do it through that one door, through that one person, like you did last time. So, but whichever way is comfortable. Yes, Nadine.
Yeah, sir, I have a question about the individual assessment.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure which date, like which the deadline is the true one, because in here the deadline is on Monday to March.
Okay.
And yeah, and I want to ask what kind of like PPT you prefer, like it's more like of the summary of something, like the terms and then the definition, or maybe you prefer more less word and more images, or what kind of PPT you prefer? Thank you.
Okay, good question. You might have accessed the older resources from the previous class. Um, I just need to remind you again that that Buruli and I imported the class from last time, and um, between the Perwalian stage and the actual execution of the classes, there isn't that much break. There isn't that much room for us to there wasn't that much time for us to modify the classes, so we're going to modify the classes as we go along. Um, I said earlier that some of you may have seen quizzes and other activities in the first section of the classroom. You can ignore those. As for the deadline, as for the deadline for the urban morphology assignment, it should be around week 6 or week 7. Um, that should be around so this should be around October and not March. Um, Again, since that was probably from the last class and an older term of reference. Um, to I said earlier that my plan for the group assignment is to make is to examine the urban form and the driving factors. The poster that you ask, maybe from again from a previous assignment or a previous task, I will take that down. You can ignore that. And I will provide everyone with a new term of reference for the group assignment. But for the individual assessment in this class only relies on the mid and the end of semester and the end of semester assessments or the exams. Those will be online quizzes. Well, at least urban morphology will be an online quiz, either multiple choice and a combination of short text. But the difference between this semester and the previous semesters is that we are trying to become more and more standardized in the number of assessments that we give. Previously it was more of a free for all, and now it's I think we are trying to keep with the 4 assessments per course constraints. So there will there won't be any surprise assessments, but throughout the 6 coming weeks, we will have parallel discussions. I think I might have done that with you guys before, using the breakout rooms and such. Using breakout rooms and Google Jamboard, and or using Miro. But yeah, other than parallel discussions, there won't be any surprise assessments or additional. Sorry, not surprise, but there won't be any additional assessments like last time. So yeah, just keep an eye out for the term of reference. And once your class coordinator has come in touch with me, I will then share the term of reference with them, and also post a new term of reference in Classroom. I hope that answers your question. Okay, anybody else have any burning questions in the back of their heads? No? If not, then I look forward to seeing you again next week. If you have any difficulties in accessing the class, especially for our exchange friends, if you do have any difficulties in accessing the class, please do get in touch. I think yesterday Bu Feli got in touch with me. You can ask Bu Feli for my email or for my number, so that you can get in touch with me directly for anything that is related to this course. So communications, and communications. I think that goes the same for anyone in this class. Okay, great. So have an enjoyable afternoon, everyone. I'll see you all again next week. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.